What we're going to be working on now is graphing quadratic equations. So we're going to start with y equals x squared, and to begin we're going to be making xy charts to graph our functions. So we will set up an x column and a y column, and we need to understand the rule of what's being done to the x in order to get the y coordinate. And the rule is that we are going to be squaring the x. So the rule is square the x value. So when we choose our x's, we want to make sure that we choose some negative values and some positive values. So I'll just go ahead and go from -3 all the way up to +3. And since the rule is to square the x value, we'll take -3 times -3, which is +9. -2 times -2 is 4. -1 squared is 1. 0 squared is 0. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 4. And 3 squared is 9. This gives us ordered pairs that we can then graph. So I will just write out my ordered pairs. And then we'll create our graph over to the right here. So our first ordered pair is -3, 9. So we'll go -3 on the x-axis and up 9 on the y-axis. Then -2, 4. So -2, 1, 2, 3, 4. -1, 1. 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, and 3, 9. When we connect these dots, we want to make a smooth curve, no straight lines, no sharp angles. And it connects into this nice kind of U shape. Our second graph is going to be y equals -x squared plus 2. We kind of need to figure out the order of operations that's happening to our x coordinate in order to get our y coordinate. We have the opposite of x squared plus 2. Now this is saying the opposite of the value x squared. So what we should be doing first is taking our x value, square it, then make the opposite of that value and add 2 to it. So we're going to square the x value, then take its opposite, then add 2. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing each time. So let's just start with the same x values we had before and see how that works for us. So we're going to take -3 squared, which is 9. The opposite of that is -9, so -9, and then add 2, we get -7. So that gives us the ordered pair -3, -7. And then we'll do the same thing every time. Square the x value. -2 squared is 4. The opposite of that, -4. Add 2 is -2. So -2, -2. -1 squared is 1. The opposite of that is -1. Plus 2 is 1. So -1, 1. 0 squared is 0. The opposite of that is still 0. Plus 2 is 2. So 0, 2. 1 squared is 1. The opposite of that is -1. Plus 2 is 1. So we get 1, 1. 2 squared is 4. Opposite is -4. Add 2. We get -2. 2, -2. 3 squared is 9. Opposite of that is -9. Plus 2 is -7. So 3, -7. We're going to do our graph over here. So we have -3, -7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. -2, -2. -1, 1, 0, 2, 1, 1, 2, negative 2, and 3, negative 7. Again, we're going to connect these dots in a smooth curve, trying not to make any sharp angles or straight sections. Put arrows at the end, and that is our second shape. It looks similar to the first, but different in its own ways also. Our third and final curve for this section is going to be x minus 2, quantity squared, minus 3. Okay. We'll start with the same values here. Negative 3, negative 2, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Let's look at what our rule is. The rule is that we're taking the value of x and subtracting 2 from it. Then we're going to square the result and subtract 3. So we need to subtract 2 from the x value, then square, then subtract 3. So if we take our x value of negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. We're going to square that and subtract 3. Well, negative 5 squared is 25. 25 minus 3 is 22. Negative 2 subtract 2 is negative 4 squared, and then subtract 3. Negative 4 squared is 16. Subtract 3 is 13. 0 subtract 2 is negative 2. We're going to square that and subtract 3. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 subtract 2 is negative 1. Squared is 1. And then 1 minus 3 is negative 2. 2 subtract 2 is 0. 0 squared is 0. Subtract 3 is negative 3. 3 subtract 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Subtract 3 is negative 2. So we have these ordered pairs, negative 3, 22, negative 2, 13. Oop, I skipped over negative 1. 0, 1, 1, negative 2, 2, negative 3, and 3, negative 2. Let's go back and put in negative 1. Negative 1 subtract 2 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is 9. Subtract 3 is 6. So we'll add that in there. Negative 1, 6. Negative 1, 6. Okay, let's graph. Negative 3, 22. Oh goodness, is way off the chart. So negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. It's like way up there in my other problem. So normally I will just leave that off because it's off the chart. It's off of my regular size graph. So we'll just go on and graph the next one. Negative 2, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one's way up there also, but a little bit more reasonable. Then we have negative 1, 6. That's better. 0, 1. 1, negative 2. 2, negative 3. And 3, negative 2. If you're not sure if you have enough to make a good picture, go ahead and choose another x value. Like we could choose 4 to see what happens there and follow the same rule. So 4 subtract 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Minus 3 is 1. So 4, 1 would be another ordered pair. And if we wanted another one, we could choose 5. 5 subtract 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Subtract 3 is 6. So 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And that gives us a really good picture of what we should be graphing. So we're going to connect all of our dots in a nice smooth curve without any sharp angles or straight sections. Now you should notice that all of the functions that we've graphed so far have the same basic shape. We had our first graph, our second graph was upside down but still the same shape, and our third graph. All three of these graphs are in fact in the same family, and the name of the shapes we've been graphing are called parabolas. So these are all parabolas. And another name that we can call them is quadratic functions. So parabolas are quadratic functions, and this is what their graphs look like.